Picture this. It's 2 in the morning, you're lying there, wide awake again, that familiar pressure building low in your belly, the same pressure that pulled you out of a perfectly good dream just 90 minutes ago. You swing your legs out of bed, plant your feet on the cold floor, and shuffle down the hallway to the bathroom for the third time tonight. You stand there at the toilet, waiting and waiting for a flow that used to come so naturally, so easily, without a second thought. The trickle finally comes, weak and slow, and when it's done, you're not even sure you fully emptied. You wash your hands, glance at the clock on the wall, and do the math in your head. You have maybe 2 hours before the alarm goes off. You climb back under the covers, lie still, and stare at the ceiling, knowing with the quiet certainty that comes from weeks and months of this, that the pressure is probably going to build again, before those 2 hours are up. The silence of the house feels heavier somehow. The darkness feels longer. By the time morning actually arrives, you're exhausted before the day has even begun. Your energy is flat. Your patience is thin. Your coffee doesn't quite cut through the fog the way it used to. And somewhere in the back of your mind, a thought you don't really want to entertain keeps surfacing. Is this just how it is now? Most men over 60 brush it off as exactly that, just part of getting older. They figure this is the trade-off for a life well lived. They quietly accept it, keep it to themselves, and push through. But here's what so many men never realize. While you sleep, subtle hormonal and cellular changes inside the prostate can quietly make those nighttime trips more frequent, those mornings heavier, and that daytime fog thicker. These aren't random symptoms of aging that you simply have to endure. They have a biological explanation, and more importantly, they have a targeted, practical response. There is a simple, soothing drink you can prepare right before bed that peer-reviewed research links to supporting prostate comfort, calming inflammation, and meaningfully reducing overnight disruptions. Yet most men are either missing it completely or doing small things every single evening that are actively making the situation worse. Stay with me because in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly what that drink is, how to prepare it properly, and how to build it into a simple evening routine you can begin tonight, not next week, not after your next doctor's appointment. Tonight. Hi, I'm Dr. Hannah Blake, and I know it might feel a little unusual to be getting prostate health advice from a woman. But here's the thing. I've spent over a decade working closely with men who are navigating the very real physical and hormonal changes that come with aging. I've sat across from hundreds of men in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, men who came into my office frustrated, embarrassed, and exhausted, and left with a clear, concrete, actionable plan. I'm not here to talk around difficult topics or hand you the same vague advice you've already heard a dozen times. I'm here to give you straight, honest, science-grounded answers. So let's get into it, starting with one simple drink you can make in your own kitchen tonight that may genuinely change how you sleep. At this stage of life, so many men notice the same quiet shifts happening all at once, often so gradually that they're hard to pinpoint. You wake up more often to use the bathroom, sometimes 2, 3, even 4 times in a single night. Some nights it feels like you're barely back under the covers, barely warming up again, before that pressure returns. Mornings start with a heavy, groggy feeling, even after spending 8 full hours in bed, because the sleep you're getting is fragmented and shallow. It doesn't restore you the way sleep used to. You surface from it feeling like you've been treading water all night rather than resting. Your stamina isn't what it used to be, whether that's keeping up with grandkids at the park, finishing a project around the house, staying sharp and focused during a long conversation, or simply feeling present and engaged through the afternoon without reaching for another coffee or slumping into the couch. The waistline feels a little thicker than it did a few years ago. Recovery from daily activity takes longer than it once did. There's this subtle but persistent sense that your body just isn't bouncing back the way it always has. Like a phone that won't hold its charge the way it once did, no matter how long you leave it plugged in. You might even catch yourself thinking, is this really my new normal? Is this just who I am now? And perhaps what makes that thought most difficult to sit with is that you haven't changed. You're the same person, the same drive, the same discipline, the same desire to show up fully for the people you love. But your body has started telling a different story than the one you expect. You are not imagining it. You are absolutely not alone. These are the real, lived, everyday experiences of millions of men over 50, and especially men past 60. What makes this harder is that most men suffer quietly, assuming nothing meaningful can be done short of medication or surgery. That assumption is understandable, but it is costing them years of comfortable, restful nights. And that's exactly why we're having this conversation right now. Let's talk about what's actually happening inside your body, because understanding the mechanism is what makes the solution make sense. After 50, the prostate, a walnut-sized gland that sits just below your bladder, wrapped around the urethra like a donut, naturally begins to change in size and function. Think of it like a garden hose that slowly develops a kink somewhere along its length. The urethra, the tube that carries urine from your bladder out of your body, passes directly through the center of the prostate. As the gland gradually enlarges over years and decades, even a modest amount of swelling puts increasing pressure on that central tube, restricting the flow of urine and forcing your bladder to work harder than it should to push things through. Two primary biological forces drive this process, and both are important to understand. First, hormone levels shift significantly as men age. A potent byproduct of testosterone called dihydrotestosterone, or DHT, is produced when an enzyme called 5-alpha reductase converts testosterone in prostate tissue. DHT then binds to receptors inside prostate cells and sends a signal for those cells to multiply. Over time and with sustained exposure, this drives gradual cumulative enlargement of the gland. This is well documented in urological research, replicated across dozens of studies, and is one of the core reasons why prostate enlargement is essentially universal in aging men if they live long enough. Second, low-grade chronic inflammation accumulates inside the prostate tissue over time, almost like internal rust, slowly forming inside pipes. Blood flow to the pelvic region decreases with age and inactivity. The communication between nerves and smooth muscle weakens. The bladder wall thickens and becomes less elastic as it compensates for the added resistance. And the net result of all of this is that your bladder never quite fully empties, which means it refills faster, which means the signal to urinate comes sooner, again and again through the night. Many men assume the problem is simply that they're drinking too much water during the day. But here's the part most doctors don't take enough time to explain. The biological changes happening overnight. When you're lying still, when your body's natural antidiuretic hormone production dips, when inflammation is less actively managed, are what tip the balance toward those repeated nighttime trips. In other words, the problem isn't just what you drink. It's what's happening in your body while you sleep. And if those signals go unaddressed over months and years, the resulting sleep deprivation chips away at far more than your comfort. Fragmented sleep elevates cortisol, suppresses testosterone production, blunts immune function, impairs cognitive sharpness, and contributes to weight gain and metabolic disruption. The very hormonal environment that drives prostate enlargement is made worse by the sleep deprivation that enlargement causes. It is a self-reinforcing cycle. But here's the part one want you to hold on to: the right evening habits. Applied consistently and intelligently, can interrupt that cycle. They can give your body the conditions it needs to do its repair work while you sleep. And it starts with 1 cup of tea. So what can you actually do? Starting tonight, the single most practical, evidence-supported step I want you to try is this. About 30 to 60 minutes before you get into bed, prepare and slowly sip a warm cup of stinging nettle tea. Here's exactly how to make it, step by step. Use 1 to 2 teaspoons of dried nettle leaf, available at most health food stores, natural grocers, online retailers, or sometimes in the herbal section of larger supermarkets. You can find it loose leaf or in prepackaged tea bags, and both work equally well. Pour 8 ounces of freshly boiled water directly over the nettle, then cover your cup with a small plate or a lid to trap the beneficial plant compounds inside. Let it steep for 5 to 10 minutes. Strain if needed. Then drink it slowly, while it's still warm, without rushing. If the earthy, slightly grassy taste is new to you, you can absolutely soften it. A small drizzle of raw honey adds gentle sweetness. A squeeze of fresh lemon brings a brightness that plays nicely against the herbal base. A thin slice of fresh ginger steeped alongside the nettle adds warmth and its own anti-inflammatory benefit. Most men find the taste genuinely pleasant by the second or third night, once the palate adjusts. This is not something you have to grit your teeth through. It's meant to be a peaceful, intentional part of winding down. Now, why nettles specifically, and why does the science support it? A 2007 randomized double-blind clinical trial, published in the Journal of Herbal Pharmacotherapy, found that stinging nettle root extract significantly improved lower urinary tract symptoms associated with benign prostatic hyperplasia compared to placebo. and did so with a strong safety profile. Researchers believe nettle works through several complementary biological pathways. It inhibits the binding of sex hormone binding globulin, which influences how testosterone and DHT interact with prostate tissue. It modulates inflammatory signaling within the gland itself, and it helps relax the smooth muscle tissue surrounding the urethra, reducing the resistance to urine flow. Because it is completely caffeine-free, it won't stimulate your nervous system or increase urine output the way coffee, green tea, or even regular black tea can, at that hour of night. It supports your body without working against your sleep. The nettle tea is your foundation, but layering a few additional targeted evening habits around it will multiply the benefits significantly, and this is where the real transformation lives for most men. First, finish your last large glass of water at least 2 hours before bed. Let the nettle tea become the only fluid you're consuming in the final stretch before sleep. This is one of the most common and correctable mistakes men make every evening. They sip water, juice, or other drinks right up until they lie down, then feel confused when urgency arrives within the first hour of sleep. Hydrating well during the day, and then tapering off firmly in the evening, keeps you properly nourished without loading the bladder before bed. Second, reduce or eliminate alcohol and spicy foods after dinner. Both are well-documented bladder and prostate irritants. Alcohol inhibits the antidiuretic hormone that helps your body retain fluid overnight, directly increasing urine production. Spicy compounds like capsaicin can irritate the bladder lining, triggering urgency even in men without any significant underlying prostate changes. Neither of these changes requires perfection, but even a consistent reduction in the evenings will produce a noticeable difference within a few weeks. Third, add a short, gentle walk after dinner. Just 10 to 15 minutes at a comfortable pace. This is one of the simplest and most underrated habits a man over 60 can build into his evening. It supports healthy circulation to the pelvic region, which matters directly for prostate tissue health. It helps regulate evening cortisol levels, which, as we'll discuss shortly, plays a bigger role in prostate discomfort than most men realize. It aids digestion, stabilizes blood sugar after the evening meal, and creates a natural transition between the active part of your day and your wind down. It doesn't need to be vigorous, it just needs to happen consistently, every evening, regardless of weather. Fourth, consider making a small handful of raw pumpkin seeds a regular part of your afternoon. They are one of the richest natural sources of zinc in the food world, a mineral that is directly involved in prostate cell health, in the regulation of DHT, and in the immune activity that governs inflammation within the gland. Multiple peer-reviewed studies have linked adequate zinc levels to improved urinary comfort in men with prostate concerns. A small palmful in the mid-afternoon costs almost nothing, takes no preparation, and delivers nutrients your prostate genuinely uses. I want to take a moment here and invite you to drop a comment below and let me know where in the world you're watching from. I genuinely love seeing how many men from completely different countries, backgrounds, and life situations are making the choice to take their health seriously. You'd be surprised how much it means to know you're part of a community of men having exactly this conversation. One man I worked with, early 60s, a retired civil engineer, started the nettle tea routine on a Monday and added the evening walk by Wednesday of that same week. He didn't change anything else. By the end of the third week, he told me he was waking once instead of 3 or 4 times. He was sharper in the mornings, had noticeably more patience with his grandchildren, and said that for the first time in nearly 2 years he felt like he was actually sleeping, actually resting, rather than just lying in the dark waiting for the next interruption. Small, consistent choices like these compound. They accumulate quietly, and then one day you realize the accumulation has become something significant. Have you noticed these nighttime changes yourself? Drop a quick yes in the comments, or tell me which of these habits feels like the hardest one to start right now. I read every single comment, and your responses genuinely shape what I cover next. Let me tell you about Richard. Richard is 62 years old, a retired high school history teacher from Ohio. For nearly 2 years, Richard was waking up 4 times every single night. Not occasionally every night. He felt groggy and defeated every single morning. His golf handicap had crept up embarrassingly because he couldn't concentrate through the back 9, and he had quietly stopped suggesting long road trips to his wife because the anxiety around finding rest stops in time had become genuinely stressful. He stopped mentioning the nighttime issue to her because he didn't want to worry her. He didn't bring it up with his doctor because he had already decided, with the quiet resignation of a man, Who doesn't want to be told bad news? That nothing could really be done without going down a medication or procedure road he wasn't ready for. Then he came across the information we're talking about today. He started with just the nettle tea the first week. Nothing else changed. Then the second week he added the short evening walk. The third week he moved his last glass of water to 2 hours before bed and cut his after-dinner glass of wine entirely. Nothing dramatic, nothing overwhelming, just one small addition at a time, stacked on top of the last. After about 5 weeks, Richard noticed he was sleeping through until around 5 in the morning most nights, uninterrupted. When he did wake, the urgency felt far less intense, far less pressing. He had enough energy to volunteer as an assistant coach for his grandson's baseball team. He booked a road trip with his wife, their first in 3 years. He told me, with a laugh that carried genuine relief in it, that he finally felt like a version of himself he recognized again. No procedures, no prescriptions, no dramatic interventions, just steady, quiet improvements built from consistent evening habits that gave him back his nights, and with them his confidence and his sense of himself. Now let's go a layer deeper. Because the most lasting change comes when all of these pieces work together as an integrated system rather than as isolated actions you try for a week and then forget. Stress is one of the most underestimated and least talked about hidden drivers of prostate discomfort, and most men never make the connection. When cortisol, your body's primary stress hormone, remains chronically elevated over weeks and months, it directly amplifies systemic inflammation throughout the body, disrupts the conversion balance between testosterone and DH, and interferes with your body's overnight repair and recovery processes. This means that even if you're drinking the nettle tea, even if you're taking the evening walk, unmanaged, chronic stress can significantly blunt the benefit of every other good habit you're building. Winding down without screens for at least 1 hour before bed allows cortisol to fall naturally through the evening. The blue light emitted by phones, tablets, and televisions suppresses melatonin production and signals your brain that it's still midday, keeping your nervous system in a state of alert readiness that is the opposite of what you need for deep restorative sleep. Turning devices off earlier is not a sacrifice. It is an active investment in the hormonal environment your body needs to repair itself overnight. And speaking of sleep, this is when your body does the vast majority of its cellular maintenance work. During deep, slow-wave sleep, growth hormone is released in its largest natural pulse of the day. Inflammatory markers are cleared, damaged tissue is repaired, immune cells are replenished and calibrated. When nighttime disruptions fragment that deep sleep repeatedly, night after night, inflammation stays elevated, hormonal balance continues to shift in the wrong direction, and the cycle perpetuates itself. For men over 60, protecting sleep quality is not a luxury or a nice-to-have. It is foundational medicine, as fundamental to your health as what you eat and how you move. One of the most damaging myths I hear regularly from men is this: if it's not cancer, I just have to live with it. That belief is both understandable and quietly devastating. Prostate discomfort that is recognized early, supported consistently, and managed with intelligent lifestyle habits can remain mild and manageable for decades. Waiting until symptoms become severe, until urgency is constant, until sleep is shattered, until quality of life has meaningfully eroded, dramatically narrows your options and makes recovery harder and slower. Here is something most men are never told, and I want you to really hear it. Consistency beats intensity every single time. Drinking nettle tea every evening for 6 weeks will do far more for you than drinking it aggressively for 10 days and then stopping. Maintaining a light after-dinner walk for 3 months matters more than a burst of intense exercise that doesn't stick. The nervous system, the endocrine system, the inflammatory pathways, they respond to patterns. They respond to what you do reliably, repeatedly, over time, not to what you do heroically once. One important note before we wrap up. Stinging nettle is well tolerated by most healthy adults, but if you are currently taking blood pressure medication, blood thinners such as warfarin, or prescription diuretics, please have a brief conversation with your prescribing doctor before adding nettle tea to your regular routine, as it can have mild interactions with those drug classes. And as always, if your symptoms are severe, worsening rapidly, or accompanied by pain, blood in the urine, difficulty urinating entirely, or fever, please seek prompt medical attention. Nothing shared in this video replaces a thorough evaluation by your own healthcare provider who knows your complete medical history. This information is meant to complement that relationship, not replace it. What makes this approach genuinely powerful over time is the compounding effect, the way each piece of the system reinforces and amplifies the others. The nettle tea works to calm inflammatory signaling in the prostate and relax urethral smooth muscle. The evening walk improves blood flow to the pelvic region and lowers cortisol before sleep. The reduced fluid intake before bed prevents the bladder from being needlessly stressed during the night. Better, deeper sleep, protected by earlier screen cutoffs and lowered stress, restores hormonal balance and reduces the systemic inflammation that drives DHT activity. The zinc from pumpkin seeds provides the raw material your prostate cells need to regulate themselves properly. Each habit feeds into the next. Together, as a consistent system, they deliver something no single step could achieve on its own. So let's bring it all together clearly, because clarity is what makes action possible. The prostate changes quietly and gradually with age. That part is biological and, yes, universal. But what those changes do to your sleep, your energy, your mood, your confidence, and your daily quality of life is not inevitable. It is largely shaped by what you choose to do consistently in the hours before you sleep. The mechanism is straightforward. Gradual enlargement driven by DHT and low-grade chronic inflammation narrows urinary flow, prevents complete bladder emptying, and converts your nights into a cycle of fragmented, shallow, unrestorative sleep. Left unaddressed, that sleep disruption feeds further hormonal imbalance and inflammation, and the spiral tightens. The solution starts with 1 warm cup of stinging nettle tea, 30 to 60 minutes before bed. Layer in finishing all major fluid intake, 2 hours before sleep. Add a 10 to 15-minute walk after dinner. Incorporate raw pumpkin seeds as a regular afternoon snack. Protect your wind-down window from screens and unresolved stress. Commit to doing all of it consistently, night after night, week after week, because that consistency is not just a nice idea, it is the actual mechanism through which transformation happens. Your age does not determine your health trajectory. Your habits do. You do not have to accept constant nighttime disruptions as the unavoidable cost of growing older. The science is clear that targeted, consistent, lifestyle-level support applied at the right time of day, built into the rhythm of your evenings, can meaningfully improve urinary comfort, sleep depth, morning energy, hormonal balance, and overall well-being for men in their 60s and beyond. You have far more influence over how you feel than most men ever realize, and it starts with one simple decision: tonight before you go to bed. If this was genuinely useful to you today, please give the video a thumbs up. It takes 1 second and it helps other men over 50 find this information when they need it most. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button now and tap the notification bell so you never miss what we cover next. Leave a comment and let me know you're starting the nettle tea routine tonight, or tell me which part of the evening habit stack you're going to try first. Every comment gets read. Your experiences and questions genuinely guide what I create next. In my next video, I'll walk you through the 5 everyday habits that may be irritating your prostate without you realizing it. No equipment, no supplements required. Just the kind of honest, practical information that actually makes a difference. Until then, take good care of yourself, protect your sleep, respect your body, and remember, one small, smart choice tonight is the beginning of feeling significantly better. I'll see you in the next one.